Pretty weird that we only got to see the Bulls play one game in an 8-day span, given they needed to account for the jet lag and time adjustment for the Paris game, both on the way there and coming back. And as fun as the Paris game was, there was definitely a void in my Bulls fandom, seeing all these other games going on and not seeing the Bulls play. But either way, the Bulls are back at it in Chicago. They've got a full schedule of games this week, and to be honest, these really are all very winnable games, but then again, what does that even mean when it comes to the Bulls this season, who have played pretty poorly against some of the worst teams in the NBA? But either way, this is a big opportunity for the Bulls with a lighter schedule to work their way back up in the standings as we get closer to the NBA trade deadline just a few weeks away. So in today's video, we're going to be previewing the 4 upcoming games for the Bulls this week, things to be looking out for, as well as my predictions for the week. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. So as I mentioned, the Bulls have 4 games this week, starting tonight at the United Center against the Atlanta Hawks. Then they'll be traveling for the rest of the week, heading to Indy tomorrow in a back-to-back to face the Pacers, taking on the Charlotte Hornets on Thursday, and then closing out the week on Saturday in Orlando against the Magic. So let's start with the game against the Hawks tonight, which in theory would be the toughest opponent of the week relative to all these other teams. The Hawks, who, while yes, struggled to start their season, and given they traded away most of their future to get DeJounte Murray, have fallen below expectations. All of that being said, though, they have been playing a lot better, winning 7 of their last 10 games. Their offense has looked a lot better. Murray and Trae Young have started to look a little more cohesive playing together, more connected, and every game the Bulls have played against the Hawks, they have been hard-fought, close battles in which you had 2 buzzer beaters. The first, when the Bulls blew the game twice, one in regulation and then again in overtime when AJ Griffin scored on that lob with 0.5 seconds left, and then the Bulls followed that up with Ayo hitting the game winner over the Hawks, and John Collins ended up on the bottom of the Bulls celebration pile. But for this game, I would suspect another back and forth close game. These teams match up pretty well together with their strengths in the backcourt. Capella has at times been a tough matchup for Vucevic in the front court because he's such a good rim protector, but Vucevic has a much better offensive game than Clint Capella. And then I really like the matchup between John Collins and Patrick Williams. So for this one, it's going to be really key for Dosunmu. Ayo has played really well against Trae Young in the past. The last couple of games this season, though, not as much. We need to get those memes back of where Ayo is holding Trae Young as his son, hounding him on the perimeter, getting in his line of vision, deflecting his passes. As we all know, Trae is actually really great in terms of his court vision in addition to his elite scoring ability. And then the other piece is not just Ayo having a big game on defense in guarding Trae, but also this should be a bigger game for Ayo on offense in exposing Trae Young's lack of defensive abilities, especially when Ayo is one of the better players in the league in his quick first step when defenses fall asleep in getting to the basket. Need to see a lot of those types of drives tonight from Ayo rather than just seeing him shoot up a bunch of threes. Obviously, it's also a game in which you need to see Zach and DeMar step up and have some balanced scoring between the starting lineup as well. I would imagine Patrick Williams will probably spend some more of his time on defense and guarding DeJounte Murray, as you're going to want to have your better defenders on a player like Murray who has that slashing ability. And then the last piece, currently actually, Bogdanovic is listed as day-to-day, likely a game-time decision, but if he plays, for the love of God, guard this guy on the perimeter. Don't let him heat up. He's torched the Bulls in the first 2 meetings. Don't need to see that happening again with him coming off of the bench. Then the Bulls head over to Indianapolis in their second game of back-to-back, and the Pacers are in a big-time slump. And you kind of had to expect that happening at some point. This team, as most expected the Pacers to be one of the worst teams in the league and in the tank for Wembanyama sweepstakes, and then they suddenly started playing really well and were one of the top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference for a good portion of the first half of the season. But more recently, they lost 7 straight games. As of right now, they're only a half game ahead of the Bulls for the 9th seed. So really, when you look at both of these games against the Hawks and the Pacers, these are critical games for the Bulls to gain a full game on teams that are directly ahead of them in the 9th and 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. But for this game against the Pacers, I mean, they're going to be hungry for a win, the Pacers that is. Any team coming off a 7-game losing streak is going to be fighting for a win. And for the Bulls, they really should be treating this game as, yeah, hit them while they're down. While they're still struggling and out of sorts. Locker room is probably a little frustrated. And as of right now anyway, Tyrese Haliburton has been out of the lineup for the last 2 weeks, which has been a big reason for their struggles. And my assumption is he won't be returning by the time tomorrow rolls around for the game against the Bulls. Have to take advantage of that, a team that is without one of their best players. What will be challenging in this game is that Vucevic historically has not matched up well against Miles Turner, who is one of the best shot blockers in the NBA. And because he's also improved his offense pretty substantially this season, it makes it even more of an issue for Vucevic because Vuce is not the best defender. And then the other key in this game is the Pacers, despite their struggles, are still one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league, which a lot of it has been because of Buddy Hield. He's just been shooting lights out for them so far this season. And we all know the Bulls have really struggled against the better three-point shooting teams in the NBA, or really defending the perimeter in general. So this might be one of those games where the Bulls struggle to pull away from these guys because they keep knocking down threes, and it doesn't help that it's on the second night of a back-to-back. Then the Bulls will take on the Hornets on Thursday in Charlotte. I feel like this was one of those nationally televised games that they removed from the docket when they realized Lonzo Ball wasn't going to be coming back anytime soon, and then the Hornets started sucking big time, literally being one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, I didn't expect the Hornets to be good by any means. I kind of pegged them as a fringe play-in team, kind of like where they were last season, but I did not expect them to be this bad, to where it now looks like they're going to be one of the top contenders for Wembayama. This is a game the Bulls have to win. No excuses. You're going up against one of the worst teams in the league, a team that is terrible on both ends of the floor. They try to do too much on offense and are horrible executing on offense, and because they're so focused on that side of the ball, they don't care at all about defense. Yes, they've had their struggles with injuries. Kelly Oubre Jr. has been out for a bit. LaMelo has missed a good portion of the season, but no, even with those injuries aside, this isn't a good team. Bulls need to capitalize on an easy game on the schedule, no playing down to their competition. And I've always said, in a game going up against the Hornets, the Bulls have to feed Vucevic, as the Hornets really don't have any other quality big men on this roster. No disrespect to Mason Plumlee, but he's no matchup for Nikola Vucevic. And then finally, the Bulls close out the week on Saturday in Orlando against the Magic. I swear, if the Bulls lose to the Magic again, especially considering how the last game went down, where they were down by 18 points, came back in the fourth quarter, took the lead in the final seconds, the game was all but wrapped up for the Bulls, and then Vucevic missed those 2 free throws, and the Magic came back on the other end and hit a game-winning 3 by Jalen Suggs. And it's also just annoying hearing from Magic fans about how they fleeced the Bulls in the Vucevic trade when they're still a bad team and haven't really proven much of anything, despite having, yes, a lot of young talent that do have a lot of potential, but the potential aside, the Bulls are still a better team overall, more experience, better scores, more depth. I'll be honest though, the matchup overall against the Bulls isn't that great. The Magic have a ton of bigs, which we know the Bulls don't, especially at the 4, which the Magic have Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr., who plays both the 4 and the 5. Same with Jonathan Isaac, who, by the way, is finally set to return after missing the last 2+ seasons. Then you add Bol, who's been an incredible pickup for them this season, a 7'2" big who can handle the ball like a guard. Mo Wagner, I mean, they have so many options, while the Bulls have just Vucevic and Andre Drummond. And Patrick Williams, even though Pat is smaller than pretty much their entire front court. So because of this, where do the Bulls need to execute in this game? Take advantage of the mismatches in the backcourt. Markelle Fultz has been great for them since returning to the lineup, but between Fultz, Suggs, Gary Harris, Cole Anthony, Terrence Ross, like these guys simply aren't on the same level as guys like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. Like, bias aside, you're talking about 2 all-stars compared to most of the Magic backcourt being role players on any other team. For this game, I wouldn't worry as much about operating in the paint because the Magic will protect the rim well, as they have done this season. This is a game where you have to exploit the Magic and their weak perimeter defense and hope the Bulls can actually execute in shooting better from deep. Well, I say that and then I realize that the Bulls are actually a decent three-point shooting team based on percentage anyway. They're actually 7th in the NBA by percentage, but they're dead last in three-point attempts and 27th in three-pointers made. This is a game where they should be putting up more threes, and we just have to pray that the threes in this game are actually going in. Otherwise, it's going to be a long night. As far as my predictions for this week, I mean, the Bulls really should win all of these. Like, you'd have to think by the end of the week, the Bulls are going to be back up above 500. But I also know this team, and realistically speaking, I'm sure there's going to be a game or two where they don't show up well. As such, I do think the Bulls will lose one game this week and go 3-1. Not quite sure which game that would be. I could see it most likely being the game against the Pacers just because it's a back-to-back. The Pacers are in a desperate need of a win, and the Bulls have struggled against good three-point shooting teams. But obviously, the hope is with an easy schedule this week, they can win all of these and get back up above 500. But this Bulls team, they've just been so unpredictable all season, so who knows? But let me know what you guys think. How do you think the Bulls will do this week? Let me know your predictions in the comments, and as always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.